The cold French mud clung to Captain Richard Holloway's boots. His hand, more accustomed to polished brass, tightened around the strange device he held. Around him, chaotic echoes of D-Day's failed airborne assault faded. They faded into the dark, silent panic of hundreds of lost men. German patrols were moments away, and only one way out remained. It was the immutable, distant light of the stars. It was 1:15 a.m. on June 6, 1944, and Holloway was plunged into war's profound disorientation. His life had previously revolved around guiding schoolchildren through Chicago's Adler Planetarium cosmos. He was 32 years old, with no combat jumps to his name before this night. He carried the invisible weight of 3,200 scattered American paratroopers. Their survival hinged on his ability to find a path through 12 miles of enemy territory. All had to be done within the next 47 minutes. The D-Day airborne operation had been conceived with precision, a complex tapestry of synchronized movements. 3 American divisions were to drop into designated zones. They would secure vital bridges, blocking German reinforcements and holding positions until beach landings connected. But the reality was a dramatic departure from the plan. C-47 transport planes carrying the 82nd Airborne crossed the French coast at 0:28 a.m. Unexpected and heavy German anti-aircraft fire ripped through the night sky. Pilots took swift, evasive action, flying at different speeds, altitudes, and headings. The result was a scattering, not a deployment, with paratroopers jumping into a 40-mile expanse of German-occupied France. They landed not in the intended 2-mile zone. For many, the landing was devastating. Some plunged into flooded fields, silently drowning. Others snagged in the tops of tall trees. They became easy targets before they could even cut themselves free. Still more landed directly into German positions, captured almost immediately. Yet, against all odds, 3,200 paratroopers landed alive, uninjured and free. But freedom in such circumstances meant being lost, isolated. They formed small, fractured groups. 5 men here, a dozen there, perhaps 30 in another location. Each was adrift in a foreign land, radios useless, maps inaccurate, without discernible landmarks. The sky was obscured by a thick, unforgiving cloud cover. German intelligence indicated powerful reinforcements would sweep through these drop zones by 2 a.m. This left little doubt as to the fate of any soldier still in their path. The clock was ticking toward an inescapable deadline. Holloway himself had landed hard at 0:55 a.m., his parachute snagging in a French hedgerow. He cut himself loose, gathered his equipment, and soon found 6 other paratroopers from his stick. None of them knew their precise location, their maps useless paper. By 1 a.m., his small group had swelled to 40 men, all equally disoriented. Standard compasses offered direction, but no sense of where that direction would lead them. It was then, at 1:05 a.m., that Holloway encountered Captain James Walsh of the 101st Airborne. Walsh had managed to gather some 200 scattered paratroopers, all from different drops. He was trying to impose order, to lead them somewhere away from the looming danger. He asked Holloway if he knew their position. Holloway admitted he didn't, but confidently asserted he could find it. Walsh, desperate, asked how. Holloway produced his star compass. It was a humble, almost crude instrument, assembled from a watch case, a wire frame, a small mirror. It also had a piece of glass etched with markings. Walsh, scanning the heavily clouded sky, was openly skeptical. "There are no stars," Walsh stated flatly, but Holloway replied with assurance, an assurance born of years studying the heavens. "There will be in 10 minutes. The cloud pattern is breaking." And Walsh, seeing little other option, gave him those 10 minutes. By 1:12 a.m., the company had grown to perhaps 600 men. Fear was palpable, and they heard the distant rumble of German vehicles. Time was running out, ticking toward an inescapable deadline. Then at 1:14 a.m., the clouds shifted, just a subtle break, just enough. Through the gap, a single star became visible. Polaris, the North Star. Holloway raised his homemade compass, aligning the device, the mirror catching Polaris' faint light. The wireframe measured its angle above the horizon against the watch case's reference points. He read the measurements and, with practiced speed, calculated their latitude. 49.3 degrees north. This matched the latitude of northern France. It was a good sign. The device was working. Latitude alone was not enough. Holloway needed longitude, their east-west position. This required a second star and a precise time calculation. He glanced at his watch. 1:15 a.m., then he waited patiently for another star. Ideally, one on the eastern or western horizon. The seconds stretched into an eternity for the men surrounding him. At 1:17 a.m., the clouds obligingly shifted again. Another star, Arcturus, appeared on the western horizon and Holloway measured it. He calculated its angle, cross-referenced the time, and performed the intricate mental mathematics. Years of teaching celestial mechanics to planetarium visitors had honed his skill. He could translate observations into coordinates with remarkable speed. By 1:19 a.m., he had their precise position. 49.3 degrees north, 1.2 degrees west. That placed them 14 miles southeast of their intended drop zone, 12 miles deep behind German lines. They were a precarious 8 miles from the nearest Allied positions. Walsh asked for the direction and Holloway pointed northwest. That way, Holloway stated, 8 miles, then Walsh pressed him. "Are you certain?" Holloway's response was calm, definitive. "Polaris doesn't lie. Stars don't make mistakes." At 1:20 a.m., Captain Walsh made his decision. With 600 men now looking to him for guidance, he committed them to Holloway's celestial reckoning. If the astronomer was wrong, they would all face the same severe outcome. If he was right, they might just live, and they began moving northwest. As they traversed the darkened fields, more scattered soldiers joined their ranks. They were drawn by the presence of an organized group. By 1:35 a.m., the column had swelled to 1,200 paratroopers. Walsh sent word back through the growing column, "Follow the astronomer. He's navigating by stars," and they were told to trust him. Their precarious journey was interrupted at 1:42 a.m. by a brief, sharp firefight. It was a German patrol, and the Germans retreated, but the gunfire meant their presence was known. Time became even more critical. Holloway quickly rechecked the stars, confirming their course. 6 miles remained to Allied lines with only 18 minutes. German reinforcements were set to arrive, and at 1:48 a.m., scouts reported vehicles blocking their route. A detour was necessary, which meant added distance, more precious minutes lost. Walsh looked to Holloway, his question unspoken, as Holloway checked his watch. Holloway, checking his watch, saw the daunting challenge. 12 minutes to cover 7 miles. It seemed impossible, but then Holloway noticed the cloud cover clearing completely. This revealed a much wider expanse of stars, allowing him to calculate an even more direct path. This meant cutting straight across fields instead of winding along roads. He pointed sharply. "That way, 4 miles. We can make it if we run." At 1:50 a.m., Walsh gave the order, "Double time." 1,200 paratroopers began to run through the pre-dawn darkness. By 1:55 a.m., the word had spread like wildfire. An astronomer was navigating by the stars, and there was a way out. The group swelled to 2,400 men, each pushing forward, propelled by a desperate hope. At 1:57 a.m., just 3 minutes before the dreaded German reinforcements were due, scouts spotted Allied positions ahead, bringing safety and immense relief. Walsh ordered flares fired, identifying their massive, ragged formation. The Allied troops saw them, held their fire, and let them through. By 2:02 a.m., 2,400 paratroopers had crossed into Allied lines, safe, with 2 minutes to spare. But Holloway knew that more men were still lost, still scattered in the darkness. He remained in no man's land, continuing his navigation for the next 45 minutes. He moved tirelessly through the fields, finding small groups, 50 men here, 100 there. He used his star compass to guide each one northwest towards safety. By 2:47 a.m., Richard Holloway had guided a total of 3,200 paratroopers out of German territory. Every single one had reached Allied lines before the German counterattack could trap them. At 3 a.m., Holloway finally crossed into Allied lines himself, exhausted. His crude compass was still clutched in his hand. Walsh found him, asking how he could have been so sure the compass would work. Holloway's explanation was simple, a truth he had taught children for years. Stars are predictable and celestial mechanics don't change. If you know the math, you can navigate anywhere on Earth. Walsh, looking at the weary, relieved faces around them, remarked that no one would ever believe this story. Holloway, without a trace of doubt, replied, "The 3,200 soldiers who lived would believe it." The very next day, June 7th, Holloway was debriefed by Division Command. The commander who, 3 months earlier in England, had dismissed his star compass as astronomical pseudoscience. This commander had banned its use and was now present. Holloway calmly explained how Polaris provided latitude and horizon stars yielded longitude. Precise time calculations completed the picture, a simple astronomy. When asked, Holloway explained his 8 years at the Adler Planetarium. He taught visitors how to read the night sky, how ancient mariners used the same techniques. He was then asked why he built the device and carried it despite official ban. Holloway explained his conviction. He knew the D-Day drops would be scattered. New inexperienced soldiers would be lost and standard navigation tools would fail. This would happen in the darkness without familiar landmarks. But the stars, he asserted, would work anywhere, always reliable. Confronted with direct orders disobeyed, Holloway simply stated, "Yes, but 3,200 men are alive because of it." The commander paused, absorbing the weight of those words, then ordered the device mass-produced. Celestial navigation would become standard training for paratroopers. By August 1944, every American airborne division had soldiers trained in Holloway's star compass method. Simplified, standardized versions of his device were issued, yet none matched Holloway's crude original. None of its users had spent 8 years showing children how to read the night sky. None had internalized the intricate dance of star positions with the depth and certainty of Richard Holloway. He continued his service throughout the war, making 3 more combat jumps. He relied on his compass every time, never getting lost again. He survived, earning the Distinguished Service Cross, its citation acknowledging his innovative navigation. The citation acknowledged innovative navigation under combat conditions, yet making no mention of his planetarium background. In November 1945, Richard Holloway returned to Chicago to his familiar post at the Adler Planetarium. He resumed teaching visitors about the stars, but now with quiet knowledge. His seemingly esoteric passion had a profound, life-saving military value. Decades later, in 1984, a military historian researching D-Day operations stumbled upon references. These were references to Holloway's navigation, and he tracked down Holloway. Then 72 and Director Emeritus at the Adler Planetarium, Holloway confirmed the details. He even produced the original compass, which still functioned perfectly. The historian asked Holloway how he felt, knowing his device once banned had proven essential. Holloway replied that military leadership couldn't be faulted. Celestial navigation had seemed archaic in 1944. Modern warfare relied on compasses, radios, maps. But when those failed, ancient techniques worked. "Stars don't fail," Holloway said. "They're always there, always reliable." When asked, Holloway spoke of the 3,200 faces. Young men scared and lost. They placed their trust in an astronomer they had never met. This was simply because he said the stars would save them. And the stars did, and Richard Holloway passed away in 2003 at 91. His obituary mentioned his distinguished career at the Planetarium and his military service. It made no mention of 3,200 paratroopers or 47 minutes, or a compass built from watch parts. Yet today, that original star compass rests in a display. A small placard explains its profound significance, detailing its use on D-Day. It was used to navigate 3,200 paratroopers through German territory. It saved more lives that night than any weapon. Sometimes the most vital tools in conflict are not technology at all, rather the enduring power of ancient knowledge, an understanding that stars are fixed points. Celestial mechanics are predictable and math works everywhere. One planetarium director proved that teaching children about constellations. This was the perfect training for guiding thousands of soldiers through the darkness. His 8 years showing visitors how to read the night sky. This prepared him to save 3,200 men in 47 minutes with one crude compass, all with an unwavering faith in the heavens above.